The next 2.5 months are going to be bonkers. I've called 2024 the year of chaos, and we've already hit a few moments of peak astrological intensity, one of which was the Mars-Uranus conjunction right during the Trump assassination attempt. But now we are entering the grand finale of the year. I have always kept my eye on this period of time because we have Pluto re-entering Capricorn for the final time. It enters on September 2nd or the 1st, depending on what time zone you're in, and will continue to be in this sign until mid-November, and then it will enter Aquarius for the final time, where it will be in Aquarius for the next 2 decades. So this is the last hurrah of Pluto and Capricorn. And on the same day, we have the planet Uranus doing a station in the sky. So Uranian energy will be at peak. So we'll have to figure out the interplay between these two very different symbols and what they mean. We also have the Virgo New Moon occurring, which I will say some things about, how we can work with this event for our own personal evolution. But I do want to focus more on the big picture, on the higher ground, if you will. How does the Pluto-Uranus interplay affect the collective? What does it mean for the next 2.5 months? Because it's with these slower moving outer planets, the transpersonal planets as they're called. They're the ones that have a big effect on humanity. And they indicate major generational shifts, especially when you start talking about Pluto changing sign. Before we get to that though, quick announcement. I do have an ongoing summer sale, 25% off a personal birth chart reading with me. The sale will continue until the equinox. I don't do sales very often, so if you'd like to get a personal reading, I highly recommend it. I'll put a link above. And with that being said, let's dive in. Pluto re-entering Capricorn, again, it will be in the sign until mid-November. Pluto archetypally is known as the Lord of the Underworld, the God of Hell. That's not really a pleasant name. It's also linked to karma, the habit energies of the past. So it's fundamentally representative of a wound of the collective, origins of which are historical and karmic. When Pluto is stimulated, those wounds need to rise from the underworld, become so obvious, in this case amongst the collective, so that we can do the hard work necessary to attempt transformation and transmutation of that collective wound. So on the positive side of Pluto, it is fundamentally a planet of regeneration if we can do that deep work. And to remind us of the deep work we have to do, it's also the planet of extremes. So every sign, every planet, every house in astrology has a higher octave expression, if you will, and then a more shadowy side or a darker side or ways we can stumble with it, a more challenging side of it. So here we are in the realm of duality. There's a spectrum of possibilities with every symbol. Pluto brings out the extreme opposite, the extreme juxtaposition between light and dark of, in this case, Capricorn. Starting with the negative side of Capricorn. It's linked to power. That's an egoic fascination with Capricorn energy. The fascination with power and how to attain more of it. So therefore it's linked to governments, corporations, those people or entities out there which seek to control. That's the shadow side of Capricorn. Capricorn is vulnerable to control. Now, if you're a Capricorn out there, I'm not saying you're a controlling person. I am saying the lower octave expression of the sign does have that vulnerability to that more egoic expression of it. So it represents the powerful, at least amongst the collective, the elites, if you will, the billionaire class, the haves. Now, here's a question. Since Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008, have the rich gotten richer? Yeah, right when it entered in 2008, what do we have? The banking crisis. And who bailed out the banks? The government. Now, corporations and government have been, buddies for quite some time, way before Pluto entered Capricorn. But the planet of extremes entering this sign bringing that aspect of the collective life right in our faces to the maximum. So that was another, big event, 2008. Here's another one, COVID. By some estimates, the billionaires, at least in the USA, gained wealth by 70%. Meanwhile, small businesses were getting decimated across the world, not just the country. So the wounds and the collective karma associated with this darker side of Capricorn becoming so extreme, so obvious, because we, as humanity, are invited to transmute these darker energies into something more evolved. But Pluto has brought out the extreme good of Capricorn too. Doesn't seem quite as obvious, but it's definitely out there. Capricorn is the symbol of wisdom. It's the symbol of endurance. It's the symbol of integrity. It represents incredible acts of integrity and strength, doing what's right even if we don't feel like it. Great sacrifice can come from doing the right thing. And I'm sure this has happened in every country around the world in ways that I don't even know about. But we can use a couple very public examples linked to this very same idea, because when you have the extreme dark coming out in full battle dress, that has a catalytic impact in the hearts of mine and minds of good people who bring out the extreme good in them. Pluto in Capricorn, the age of the whistleblower. For example, Ed Snowden, Julian Assange, bringing dark to light, saying, look, things are getting crazy. Here's my proof. Let's change. Let's transform. Pluto. So what does it mean? Pluto re-entering Capricorn for the next 2.5 months. Well, it means we're going to see the extremes on both ends of the spectrum. Incredible feats of integrity. Like the whistleblowers, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of those coming out over the next couple months. But so too, we're going to see a lot of the dark. This is the death throes. This is the last hurrah. This is the twilight struggle of the power brokers. The rich seeking power during one of the most, let's say, important election years for humanity, at least one of them, where almost half of the countries in the world are going through major elections. Many of them already have. But we want to pay close attention to the elections that are happening while Pluto's in Capricorn, one of which is the U.S., of course, as many of you know, which, gotta admit, makes me a bit nervous that Pluto's in Capricorn during the U.S. elections. But even if the outcome is perceived as negative for the U.S. elections, here is the seed of hope. When Pluto re-enters Aquarius, one of the extreme positives of that is Aquarius is the symbol of freedom, of individuation, of sovereignty, of decentralization. It's a symbol of humanitarianism, people coming together for the good of all, functioning as lighthouses amongst the darkness. With Pluto in Aquarius over the next 20 years, there's a powerful orientation towards freedom. Of course, there's an extreme dark side of Pluto in Aquarius, which I'll have 20 years to talk about. I'm not going to talk about it now. But the seed of hope is that, regardless of what we perceive, and this goes beyond the election outcomes, right? Whatever this waning grasp of the oligarchy ends up being, even if it seems to be really dark and bad, the encouragement I would give is don't give up hope. Because I know Pluto is in Aquarius. Do I know for sure it's going to be a hopeful future? Well, I am a Sag. I'm, forever optimistic. And I don't know for sure. Nobody can know a probabilistic future, but I can, as an astrologer, make an educated guess, and I am hopeful for our future. What about Uranus stationing? Actually, Uranus is the planet that rules the aforementioned Aquarius, so there's a lot of overlap in meaning between them. But Uranus is the great awakener, the god of earthquakes and lightning bolts, attempting energetically to shock us, to disrupt us out of a stupor, a illusory state in this Maya, this dream, the illusion that we find ourselves in. Expect the unexpected is a cliche associated with this planet. Sudden events happening. And with more traditional forms of astrology, sudden things happening with Earth, quite literally, because it's in the sign of Taurus, the sign of Earth, of Mother Nature. Uranus and Taurus is linked to seismic activity. Also disruption and instability regarding agriculture, anything dealing with food, water, shelter, our sense of security. A disruption, insecurity is one potential of this. Also instability with something that's very Taurus, money. And one of the things that I knew Uranus and Taurus was going to do during this really almost decade period of time is rapid evolution and instability in crypto. The evolution, Uranus, of money, Taurus. And right when Uranus started to station, I checked out crypto and it's taken a big dip downwards. It'll probably bounce back, but there's that instability. But on a deeper level, what are we trying to learn through big Uranian events? Well, it's very similar to Pluto entering Aquarius. We're trying to learn more freedom. Uranus is the planet of rebellion. Don't be surprised if during this Uranus station, groups of people, large groups of people coming together, fighting against what? Pluto and Capricorn, the darker manifestation of that. As we have this income gap inequality getting wider and wider and wider, something's got to give. Uranus stations, the god of earthquakes and lightning bolts, shocking that into manifestation. I know in the UK, some stuff's going down. People are rioting or fighting back against, unhealthy immigration rules or whatever. I don't know. If you're from the UK, put in the comments below if I'm incorrect about that. But there is some sort of rebellion there. There has been in France. There has been in other pockets of the world. People fighting back. Some cases violently, but usually peacefully. Saying enough is enough. We want freedom. So pay close attention to what occurs over the next, I'd say, week or so, because Uranus stations don't last that long. For the next week of where in the world there is fighting against the control power structures of the planet and recognizing they're playing a catalytic role into our eventual entrance into Pluto in Uranian sign, Aquarius. This is a classic battle between those who seek to control and to be powerful and those who seek to be free and liberated. Pluto and Capricorn plus Uranus station, seeing this bubble up to extreme degrees during this time. There's large groups of people on the planet that think the way life is today is slavery masked as freedom. Now, it's not literal slavery. Obviously, that's worse. But the idea that we have a bigger jail cell with a much larger view, so spacious that we're in this illusion that we are free, this bubbling up to the surface. One of the beautiful things about astrology is knowing is half the battle. We can understand that this energy is going on, and the trick here is not getting sucked up into the drama of that and recognizing some people, when this energy is kind of flowing through them with a level of unawareness or just haphazardly, they are vulnerable to the more expressive, egocentric manifestations of these energies. But now where I want to take this is, how do I work with these on a personal level? Well, Pluto representing a wound, Uranus representing the evolutionary goal of individuation. A good evolutionary question to ask yourself is there any trauma or woundedness, repressed or suppressed, within me that's holding me back from being an individuated expression of self, an authentic expression of self? And to just do that deep psyche spelunking, to go within and to navigate those more Plutonian places within ourselves, which tend to be more intense. Also, since these next 2.5 months are going to be a bit of a bumpy road, I highly recommend laying the groundwork of inner strength and calm and tranquility within, so that you're well prepared just on an energetic and psychological level for what's going to happen. And there's many ways to do that. As many of you know, I'm a huge advocate for meditation. I custom design a meditation perfect for this event and really over the next couple weeks. I'll put a link above if you're interested. We also have this Virgo New Moon, which happens like a day after, these other two events. New moons are about new beginnings, asking ourselves the evolutionary question, is there a new beginning I can create in my life that draws me closer to the archetype of Virgo, which is known as the Virgin? Has nothing to do with sexuality. It's just a symbol of purity. Is there a new beginning I can create that will put me on the road towards impeccability, to become a better person? It's about development, basically. Virgo, of all the signs, has the highest attention to detail, and that includes on the external environment for those Virgos out there who are very detail-oriented, but also on the internal environment, to become pure internally. Now, this Virgo New Moon is also opposed Saturn in Pisces, and we could take this in a lot of different directions, but on one level, Saturn, with its connection to the concept of structures, the planet of structures in the sign of consciousness itself, Pisces. Virgo New Moon, how can I become impeccable with the structures of consciousness? The moon has a strong link to our emotions and our feelings and our desires. Some desires are fine. They can really help us, but many desires are quite unhealthy. So how can I, with my perfectionist eye, compare the actual with the ideal regarding my emotional desires, as well as my feelings? Some feelings maybe aren't necessary during this time, and seeking to change those. Also, Virgo being ruled by the planet Mercury, Mercury is the planet of the mind. There's a strong mental component with Virgo as well. Restructuring consciousness of thoughts and emotions. And there's many ways of doing that. Seeking counsel, either with a professional or with close friends, doing some deep soul searching through journaling. Again, meditation, doing some sort of introspective meditation. One that I like to do is every night before I go to sleep, I spend about 5 or 6 minutes recounting the day I just had from start to finish and visualizing in my mind the key events that happened during the day, especially when those events had some tension associated with them or the way in which I navigated them I could have done better, and to relive those experiences in my mind. And it's really powerful to do this right before you go to sleep because you're already in a meditative state. And in meditative states is when the subconscious mind is more permeable or malleable, where you can actually have some benefit of doing this sort of exercise. And then with detached observation, leveraging Virgoan objective reasoning, I relive those experiences in my mind, how I thought, how I felt, how I acted, but also if there was somebody else I was interacting with, what they did. No praise or blame towards them or myself, just see it for what it was. And then revisualize it in my mind as if I did that situation better, improving my thoughts, improving my feelings, improving my actions, as if I was functioning within that situation from my higher self, from my soul self. This is a version of an introspective meditation, and with Virgo New Moon opposed, the planet of structure associated with consciousness, Saturn and Pisces, I can't think of a more powerful daily exercise to do as a new beginning, a new moon, as I achieve this goal of impeccability. Virgo also represents the virtue of service to others. And it doesn't have to be something grand, like dedicating your weekend volunteering at the soup kitchen or something like that, although it can be. That's a Virgo action. But it's just being more helpful. It's the symbol of the servant or the craftsperson, helping somebody in need. And it's when we help people in need that we generate good karma. Virgo, of all the signs, is the one that seeks to generate good karma in a given incarnation if somebody has a lot of Virgo in their chart. So this is how we work with these cocktail of energies. Again, the biggie is the Pluto re-entering Capricorn. The next 2.5 months are going to be pretty wild. Right at the beginning, we have this like week or 10-day Uranian spike happening, really bringing out the individuational pulse, that freedom-seeking pulse. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting how the next couple months play out. And it's going to get even more intense when we hit eclipse season. I'll be talking more about that in the next video. And then right around the U.S. elections, we have another major event occurring, which is another peak spike of intensity. So it's going to be a wild ride. We know what's going on energetically, archetypally, and as long as we do our best to attempt to raise our consciousness, working with these planetary events in a more empowering way, that's what really matters, because the more we evolve as an individual, the more we do our own small part amongst the collective to help us co-create a better future and bump us on a more positive timeline. These are the core evolutionary intentions, with the goal being to expand our consciousness. Thank you.